Dr. Chong Sweet Ling, Principal Educational Psychologist for Special Education, Ministry of Education, Singapore. Dr. Nhan Thi Kim Hua, Vice Director of Research Center of Special Education, the Vietnam Institute of Educational Sciences, Ministry of Education and Training, Vietnam. I'm Professor Naotake Iketani, Dean of Faculty of Education, Gifu University, Japan. Professor Kazuo Yasuda, Faculty of Education, Gifu Shotoku Gakuen University, Japan. Professor Chinya Oba, Director of Gifu Field Science Center, Faculty of Applied Biological Sciences, Gifu University, Japan. Dr. Yugo Matsui, Chief Researcher, National Institute of Special Needs Education, Japan. Mr. Ali Yusri bin Abdul Ghafor, Acting Head of the Special Education Unit, Ministry of Education, Brunei Darussalam. Ms. Shan Sam Nyang, Official from the Special Education Department, Ministry of Education, Youth and Sports, Cambodia. Dr. Jose Tuquinayo, Jr., Chief Education Program Specialist, Student Inclusion Division, Bureau of Learning Delivery, Department of Education, Philippines, and Dr. Sujin Swangsi, Principal of Lopburi Panyanukul School. Please welcome our panelists.
Distinguished guests, welcome you back on the stage once again. For half an hour, we will have 3 points to make for the discussion. The first on the agenda is we would like your idea, people on the floor, on the topic of special education to be made in the future, probably next year or the year after, on the conference of this nature. Would you suggest the same topic, or can be autism or whatever? The second on the agenda should be you have any particular point you wish to make which is not covered on the previous presentation. And the third one is we would like to request you on the strategies in implementing transition programs in a particular country. So please feel free to suggest whatever you would like to make 3 points. Or number 4, you can say more than this, but within 30 minutes of our role on the stage would be the limitation. Okay, may I ask all of you what topic you would like to present in the next conference, in the next symposium? Can be next year or the year after. Will be in the area of transition, can be in the area of learning disabilities or severe disabilities or autism. Would you like to suggest the area, that the topic to be covered? The lady first, and then the representative from the Philippines, the second.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I would like to suggest 3 topics which I think are very important to all of us around the world. The first one is the changing role of special educational needs teachers in the 21st century, because I think workplaces are changing, places of education, schools and institutions are changing very rapidly. So that's one topic. I would also be very interested to hear and discuss about training and professional development for special educational needs teachers. And I'm sure that is something that our chair mentioned, collaboration earlier on. I think that is a very important area. And thirdly, I would like to suggest involving families. How do we involve families in the support and education of young people with special educational needs, which again I think is something that we are working on globally. There are many differences but many commonalities that we could discuss. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Okay, the representative from Philippines, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Aside from the one being shared by our participants, delegates from UK, on the participation of families in the transition program, I think one trend that we need to look into also is, as far as ASEAN is concerned, the inclusive education practices that we have, because as far as all the presentations concerned, it seems that we are still very strong in terms of segregation of these learners with the special educational needs. So since we are now moving towards inclusivity or inclusive education, that's one area that I think we need to look into in terms of practices by other countries. I think that's very important for all of us. Because in the Philippines, right now, this year, we are now aggressive in the implementation of inclusive education. But of course, there are a lot of challenges that we need to face in the implementation of inclusive education. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Right. For me, I think we've heard a lot today about what we can achieve if we implement good quality curriculum for our students with special needs. And I think we're always challenged on how we can effectively customize curriculum for students with very diverse profiles. So my suggestion would be, in terms of effectiveness and quality and best practices in developing and customizing curricula for students with more moderate to severe special needs, regardless of the condition or the specific disability. So that would be one. And related to that, I think a challenge we are facing and constantly face is, how do we measure the outcomes of students, beyond academic outcomes? What should we be measuring? And because the choice of the outcomes that we select will go back towards determining the curriculum as well. So okay. These are my thoughts.
Right. Okay. From changing roles of special education to inclusive education to the importance of curriculum. Okay. I think the people here have to record what we say. We will take all this into consideration. We will come back to the conclusion and we'll let you know later on. Thank you very much for your suggestion. Okay, before I move to the third agenda, which is how would you implement the transition program into implementation, I would ask you whether you have anything to add, you have anything to say concerning the transition from school to work, which is not covered in your presentation, or you would like to hear more? Okay, the microphone is ready to be given to you. Yes, the representative from Cambodia, please.
My greeting to all. Good afternoon. Thank you. Can I just go back to the topic number 1 as well, because I was about to have some suggestion as well for the second symposium. Can I do that?
Okay, yes.
Right. So I would like to go to topic number 2 first. So what I would like to do to add to my presentation, I was a bit fast at the end, so I didn't have a very good conclusion about the disability and in Cambodia. Yes, I would like to go back and emphasize that Ministry of Education has been doing the inclusive education, and we haven't go to yet with the special school, but we have a partnership and collaboration with the non-profit organization. We work hand in hand for the betterment of the disability in disabled person in Cambodia. And related to this, the topic that I would like to hear in the second one, in the second symposium, is I would like to hear more about the best practice of inclusive education, because now I have been practicing it for quite a long time and would like very much interesting to hear more about that. And also the second one is about intellectual disability. I just move a little bit slower to that area now, and it very much helpful for us to learn more about this area. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. So you would like to hear more about inclusive education? So inclusive education programs are going on in, let's say, all countries. So if your schools, people down there on the floor, if your schools are not inclusive yet, look for the ways in implementing inclusive education program. Yes, please.
Right, thank you. So I would like to add some of our points, I think, about this discussion. It's not about transition from school to work. Our worry about our student is about, I prefer we have some kind of discussion about life skill for our student, because for this moment in Brunei itself, most of our students, they are depending on their parents. So just say that one day you won't be with your parents anymore. So what are you going to do? So we have to give them some life skill for, like, for example, as simple as going to the toilet or, changing their clothes and all that. So that is our worry. Then our two challenges back in my country is about, one thing is the denial by the parents. And then the other thing is, the parents said to us, leave it to the expert. For example, we have expert in speech therapies. Then the support from parents, we need a support from parents, but not just leave it to us. So that is another challenges from us. Another thing is we also looking into ASEAN, I think, except Singapore maybe, the accessibility of disabled in structure, like buildings and all that. In Europe, I've been in Europe, I think they are excellent. They can access any places. But in my country, for example, is quite challenging. Like in schools, going to the buildings, accessibility for disabled people is quite a challenge. Another thing is, the third one is about self-motivation for disabled people. Sustainability, how can they sustain, without any support and all that. I think that's quite worrying us for the time being. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Life skills, I agree, very important to be taught for kids. Okay, for accessibility, from my point of view, I think you need rules and regulation, or make it stronger to the law, okay, you have to have the law to enforce the construction of the buildings, that you have to have the accessibilities for people with disability. We all agree about that. Now let's take a look at the time. We may have anybody else would like to suggest? Okay, yes, please.
Yes. Good afternoon, everybody. So with me is I think is a very lucky opportunity to attend this international conference. So I learned very much from other countries. So the transition programs for the people with disabilities. In Vietnam, there is one very big difference for the transition program, because there are two ministers to the control about. And the children with 0 and 16 years old is in the ministry education, but up either focus is in the ministry is a labor. So I think it's very insolent. It's a system. So it's very difficult for us when to run and to push in the transition program. So I learned very much from other country and you. Thank you very much. And I think it's very important either involve the family and social organization push in the transition formation. I think it's very important. So I hope in the near future maybe we focus on more. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I agree with you. For developed countries like the United Kingdom, Japan, to share your experience with us. We developing country learning something from them, and we have our own initiatives to implement the programs. For the bigger implementation in wider scale, you have to put up to the big boss in order to formulate the legislature, rules and regulation and so on. Yes, please.
それではちょっと日本語でスピークをさせていただきます。日本でも昨日今日とご紹介をしてきたようなシステムは非常に長い時間をかけて作り出されてきています。
Interpreter, please. Again in Japanese. Okay, we have interpreter in Thai and in English. Okay.
Okay. 昨日と今日発表させていただいたような日本のシステムも非常に長い時間をかけて作り上げられてきたものです。
Interpreter, sound.
You can make it out on air. If you have difficulty through the ear tip, so you can make it through the air, on air, for everybody to hear. แปลภาษาอังกฤษออกอากาศเป็นภาษาอังกฤษเลยนะคะแปลญี่ปุ่นเป็นภาษาอังกฤษออกอากาศเลยนะคะ We will have an English translation for all audience in the grand ballroom.
Okay. 現在日本では学校教育、それから福祉、労働という3つの分野の連携が進んでいます。
I think you can go ahead because they tape recorded the speech.
Please translate into English, please. Yeah.
In Japan, it took us for a very long time to develop the system.
特に学校教育はそれを支えている教員の専門性を高める方向を向いています。日本で。
In Japan, we have focused on developing specific skills in teaching a specific field, training for teachers.
そのために、日本では特別支援学校の教員の免許の制度があります。
So in Japan, we have teacher certificates specifically teaching students with special needs.
で、特別支援学校の先生方には障害の理解だけではなく、このシンポジウムのテーマである、就労に関するさまざまな専門性を身につけていくことができています。
So it makes us possible to develop teachers teaching at special needs schools, not only understanding disabilities but also training teachers to know about transition program for the students to get a job.
合わせて、小学校、中学校の義務教育段階でも障害のある子どもたちと障害のない子どもたちとの交流を進めています。
We also have exchange programs in the primary education and secondary education. We promote exchange programs between regular schools and special needs schools.
非常に長い時間をかけて現在のシステムに、学校教育はなりました。
So again, it took us a very long time to develop this system.
日本がたどった道をそのままではなく、それぞれの国にの特別支援教育に合わせて、日本の知見が生かされることを願っています。
So in my opinion, we don't have to, neighboring countries don't have to follow what Japan has done. We have to adapt to the real situations for students with disabilities in each country.
Thank you very much. Of course, it takes a long time, gradually evolve maybe. Too slow for you? You have to have change agent who can move it faster. Okay, look for change agent that can make this system move smoothly and faster than before. Very good idea. Thank you very much. Okay, time moves on and we will move fast. Before the closing, we come to the very last request for suggestion from you. That is, we finish all the speeches in 2 days, transition from school to work. We request your cordial suggestion on how we can implement the transition program from school to work, in addition to what you suggested. Yes, please.
Thank you very much. First of all, I think it would be interesting to explore the role of employment officers, government-run agencies for employment for the general population, which have been mentioned indeed in some of our colleagues' research here. But I think this is something that, and I have to say that you were talking about England as being more developed, but we have lots to learn from everybody at this conference, and I think this is something that we would like to develop ourselves in England, training and awareness for people who work in employment officers. And the other thing I would like to put a plea for in all countries is extending funding, government funding, for longitudinal studies on the success of our transition programs, because we have seen some wonderful programs during this conference. I would like to know where those students are going to be in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years, and I think that this sort of research is very important if we are to learn how successful our transition programs are. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A long way to go, not very long. We need a lot of research, okay, on the roles, on the awareness. Awareness is basically very important, not only transition from school to work, but also important in providing special education program. The general public has to be aware of the importance of special education to move on. That's what I think. Okay. Yes.
So for us in Singapore, our experience has worked really well. For us, we really are thankful for the setup of, if you recall, the SG Enable. And that's something that I would, strongly recommend for in countries. So SG Enable is an external agency set up by, for us, it was Ministry of Social and Families, not so much Ministry of Education. And the purview of SG Enable was to coordinate all the myriad various services that were out there by NGOs, VWOs that support people with disabilities. And so that worked for us, because the one thing that our special schools have, for whatever strength of curriculum they might have, they have a lot of difficulty engaging employers. So that's something, and then coordinating for work experience amongst the different schools, all trying to vie for a single employer, the same one, for example, and even for jobs. So, that has had been a challenge for us in Singapore. So with SG Enable and playing that role, that really helped. What also helped was that the Ministry of Education stepped in to work collaboratively with SG Enable to form that bridge, because on their own, the schools too might not have been able to be working directly with SG Enable. So I guess I just wanted to share that was a success factor for us.
All right. Yes, go ahead.
私は職場で障害者の方たちをたくさん見てきたんですけれど、その中で自信を持てない障害者をたくさん見てきました。
I have seen many persons with disabilities who a lack of confidence in my workplace in the past.
ですから学校生活の中で自己肯定感とか成功体験を積むっていうことがとっても大事だと思っています。
So I think it is very important for have a self-esteem and self-confidence throughout the basic education.
ですからステップ自体はすごく小さいものでも1ヶ月、半年、1年ってこう振り返ってみたときに自分のそのステップが、上がっているっていうのが分かって、それを先生方、それから家族の方や保護者の方、支援する方がちゃんとこうフィードバックできるようなそういうシステムがすごく必要かなと思っています。
I think it's important to have a good system that even if each task is very small, but have to go on step by step, and parents and teachers and other related persons have to evaluate every step.
ですから今回割とこう特別支援教育の大きなシステムについての話が多かったんですけれど、ぜひ次回は実践的なことで学校の現場だったりとか就労の準備のところでどうやって彼らの自己肯定感をこう高めていくことができるか、そんなことをぜひ聞きたいなと思っています。
So, this symposium really focus on not nationwide system, but for the next symposium, she just hopes that we put on focus on very little task, practical cases to evaluate what tasks can improve the self-esteem of children with disabilities at school?
Okay, thank you very much. Let me summarize briefly that I agree with the representative from Singapore that an agency, government body or whatever, to be set up to coordinate the effort in making transition into implementation. Very good idea. And the representative from Japan who suggests that you can begin from your own point at the very beginning, small step, and then move on, emphasizing self-esteem, a very popular topic some years ago, even up to these days, and self-confidence, so on. And then when you become successful, you will set as example for the others to follow. All right. Anybody else before I? Yes, please.
Yeah, I think it would be very interesting also to look at, to gather our officers from, in terms of employment, because in the Ministry of Education or Department of Education, we are primary in charge of educating our children. But in terms of employment, if you notice in the different countries, we have another agency to take charge of that. And so I think it would be interesting if we can gather all these officers together with the education officers and try to talk or share what are the challenges that hinders perhaps the employment of these learners with disabilities or with special needs in those industries, for example, or perhaps we can also include representatives from the industry, so that we'll be able to look at the big picture of why these learners with disabilities have difficulty in getting job. So I think this is very interesting that should be considered in the future conference or symposium like this. Thank you.
So it's very important to look into industry and so on to see what they think about our children with disability, what they can do and what they cannot do. As research, for instance, have to be done in order to achieve the goal. Okay, I think if you don't have any more questions, we think it's about time. Finally, I wish to express my deep appreciation to all of the representatives from all the countries for sharing your experience with us. We appreciate it very much. Thank you very much indeed. Loud applause for our guests, please. Thank you very much indeed. Now we are invited to go to the floor for the closing ceremony. Thank you.
Thank you very much again for contributions from our delegates. So we are left with key points to take home, and they are very valuable considering coming from experienced practitioners and researchers with evidence from the ground, and with also connection to wider contexts and wider themes and ideas. So thank you very much. And now we have come to the end of the symposium. I would like to invite Miss Suchitra-Wattana Bangkok, Deputy Secretary General of the Office of the Basic Education Commission, Ministry of Thailand, to deliver a closing speech.
Representative of Ministry of Education, Culture, Sports, Science and Technology, Japan, President of the Gifu University, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. On behalf of the Office of the Basic Education Commission, Ministry of Education, with special support from MEX and Gifu University, an organizing committee of the first International Symposium on Education for Persons with Special Needs, it is my honor and privilege to thank you all from various countries in different sectors. Throughout the 2 days of the symposium, we had paper presentation, knowledge sharing, networking and collaboration among the Southeast Asia region and the Asia Pacific for improving special education. I'm delighted that this year Thailand played roles as the host of the first International Symposium on Education. Can you see me? For persons with special needs 2017, with special support from the MEX and Gifu University. This is a challenging stage to raise an awareness to all of the member countries in the Southeast Asia region, Japan, and beyond about the equality education for persons with special needs. I believe that this symposium will be a starting point for knowledge sharing and strengthen collaborations for sustainable development on education for persons with special needs. Last but not least, this symposium is a success because of your effort and participation. And I hope international rain come last night made all of you happy and enjoy. Especially I observed from the young Japanese guy and two Japanese lady and many participants in the way they dance. Now I would like to close the first International Symposium on Education for persons with special needs, transition from school to work, and wish you all have a safe trip back to your country. Thank you very much until we meet again.
So on behalf of the organizer, I would like to express my deep gratitude for your contributions and for joining us here. It's been an honor welcoming you here and joining you in the effort of improving the quality of life of students and children and people with special needs. We look forward to welcoming you back here again, and we wish you a safe and pleasant journey back home. Thank you very much. ขอบคุณค่ะ remind you to return the registration and the evaluation form outside. There